Hola, it's April Yvette Thompson Company from the DreamingOutLoud.com. And today I'm going to talk about how to start an online business. So the questions from last class were great about how do you get started with no money and no experience. And the first thing is to, as we discussed, is to start posting in your social media or send out an email and find out what people are interested in learning. And the way that you phrase this are, what are your two biggest questions about insert space? It's really so much simpler than we think of it, right? I have one client who's really interested in creating an online course for grant writing because she wants passive income. So when you're creating a startup online business, as we discussed in the very first video, you got to decide, are you looking for passive income or are you actually looking to teach? Because if you're looking for passive income, what you're going to create are online classes that are pre-recorded. You can do that on the phone. We talked about using, 1-800 free conference call. You don't need a lot of money. They can start as classes on the phone, just recordings of you talking. You can even just make recordings on YouTube and, monetize them. You can do that right on your phone. It's less about how the information is delivered and much more about what information you choose to deliver. And you choose to deliver the information that your client base wants, not what you think they want. And this is a trick that people make. This is the mistake that people make all the time when they're starting a business. They go, what I have is really good. Let me sell it to you. But what they haven't done is find out what exactly their customer needs. And the customer is going to be primarily from your base, right? You're going to find your customer base by asking the right kinds of questions on places where you are connected to people, whether that be LinkedIn, whether that be Instagram, whether that be Facebook, whether that be your email, right? Whether that be at your, church or at a party or a cocktail party. Ask people who are in your field who do what you do, what they're interested in learning. It's actually not that hard. So if you're going to teach, I have another client who's a musician and wants the freedom to write music and travel, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was like, well, what is it that you want to create online classes to do? They go, I want to coach, but I also want to create a class that people can just buy and watch recordings on how to learn how to play guitar. I was like, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, so you already have a bunch of people that follow you as an artist, right? You have their email list. You email them when you're going to have, performances or whatever. How about you email them and say, what are your two biggest questions about playing the guitar? And begin a conversation. It's really far simpler than we think. And the key to a successful online business, I started my business in 2010. I had been teaching in studios. I had been teaching acting, writing, producing, okay, in studios around New York City, renting the space or, sharing with the studio owner the cost, and they provided the students whatever. It was lots of overhead. I had to travel places. I wasn't making all the money I could, right? And not teaching what I wanted to teach. And so I went out on my own and I was like, okay, I have an email list. It wasn't a super big email list at the time, 200 or 300 people, not a lot of people. But what I did was ask, what are your two biggest questions about acting? What are your two biggest questions about writing? What are your two biggest questions about producing? What are your two biggest questions about getting your screenplay produced? I just asked, what are the two biggest questions about the things I knew something about? And I did it in email. I posted it on Facebook. I posted in Twitter. And I responded where I got the most response, which was Facebook. Two biggest questions, right? At the time, I did have a little simple website and I put it on the blog and nobody was reading my blog until I started asking what people wanted to learn. And it was literally, I sent out an email that said, what are your two biggest questions about? That's it. And people responded. And when you get responses, you look at the recurring themes, right? Or say you only get 2 or 3 responses. Great. Your two biggest questions about how to start an online business. Where do I get my customers? And what if I don't know how to use a computer? Okay, those are two biggest questions. Yeah, great. I've gotten those two questions. Those are the two things that people keep asking me. I'm now going to go on Facebook and answer one of those questions in a post, or I'm going to make a video, whatever you prefer, or I'm going to write an email and then send out the email and then cut and paste the text of the email into a Facebook post. Wherever people are interacting with me the most, that's where I respond, right? And then you let everybody know I'm responding here. For me, when I would ask that question, I would ask it on Facebook, then I would ask the same question on my blog, and then I would ask the same question via email. And so people would respond to me either on the blog or Facebook or email, and then I would respond. I would type the email and then cut and paste the answer into all the platforms so that I'm hitting customers at every intersection. Yeah? All right, because there's different people who interact with me on Facebook than interact with me on email, than interact with me on my blog. Different people have found me for different reasons, right? You can do this all on Facebook or you can do it all in email, whatever is easy. I have certain clients that follow all my emails. They never interact with me on social media, but they respond to my emails with questions. Right? So that's where they're comfortable. That's where I'm going to meet them because they've answered my question. They are giving me valuable information about how I need to structure an online class for them. That's how you sell classes. You teach what people want to know, not what you think they're supposed to know. Now, the trick about that is that a lot of times people ask me, oh, well, what makes a script good? How do I get a script produced? Now, that's not necessarily what I was going to teach, but my answer to that is something I know about. Well, you know, a script is good if you've learned structure. You get a script produced because it has good structure. So what I teach is structure. See how that works, right? You use what you have to offer to answer their question. And you give an example. So if the example that I gave in the last class was about grant writing, it was the first lesson I learned about grant writing. How do you know that you are in the ballpark when you're writing a grant? How do you know that you're speaking the language of these particular funders? How do you know that if you're applying to, you know, the Jerome Foundation or the Ford Foundation, global aid to women, how do you know if you're really speaking the language of them? How do you get in the final round of grantees? You make sure you're speaking their language, plain and simple. So you go to Ford Foundation or wherever the grantors are, and you read case studies about the grants that have been accepted the year before you, so projects they funded. And a lot of times you can even see the application that the person submitted, or at least their artist statement. And you will notice the language mirrors the language of the mission statement of the funder. So you learn to speak the language of your customer or the person you want something from. And the only way to learn that is by asking them questions and seeing what the responses are and responding in the same language. See how that works? So, actors. How do I get an agent? Now, I know that getting an agent is about going to school, it's about craft, it's about having degrees, it's about having a great reel, it's about all these things. That may not be the language that my actors want to hear. So you get an agent by being a kick-ass actor. And here's a list of 5 ways to be a kick-ass actor. Right? So I responded to the customer in the language that they understood, that they were writing to me. I'm a great actor and I can never get a shot. So I generally, when I answer questions, I restate what the customer has said to me as I understand it, right? It's great connective listening. I restate the question. Okay, I just want to be clear. So what you want to know is you're a great actor and you want to know how to get an agent. Yes? Okay. Here's the 5 steps I know. Right? Step number 1. If you're such a badass actor, why don't you have a badass website to let me know that you're a badass actor? I actually need to have a place to come see you. See how I'm using the language of my potential client in answering their question. So people feel like you are serving their need. That's how you get customers. You ask them what they want to learn, and then you give them that information in a language that is theirs. This is really easy. This is really basic. You don't have to know about websites. You can do this all in an email or on a Facebook post. This is not deep. It's not deep at all. At all. I say do it on social media. You can do a combination of email and social media, but do it on social media, because when you ask questions and people answer, and then you ask a question, what do you want to learn? What are your two biggest questions? People put their questions, then you respond in the comments. You are now having a conversation with your potential client. And that's what creates trust. And if you do it on social media, you get social proof, right? So it means everybody else that's looking at that thread is coming back and going, oh, other people are asking questions that I thought of. This is going to give me the courage to answer a question, right? Oh, this person must really know something. Look at all these people weighing in. Social proof is what creates client trust in you, all right? When you answer a question with a smart strategy, don't even be afraid that you're always going to be giving too much. You can't give too much. You can't give too much. It's not possible. Because mostly people want a coach to walk them through a process. So even if you give them all the steps, there's going to be a percentage of that population that's going to be like, I got the steps, but I still can't do it on my own. I need you to walk me through it. Do you have a class? Do you have coaching? Like, do you have a workbook? How can you help me? And that's how you turn a potential customer into a paying client, is you help them with the language that they understand, and you help them with the tools that you actually have, right? I'll give you another example. Actors ask me all the time, oh my God, what makes a good headshot? What makes a good headshot? What makes a good headshot? Can you look at my headshots and tell me if this is a good headshot? And I'm like, no. But look, why not? Because a good headshot has to do with what you are selling that the industry wants. So before you can figure out if a headshot is good, you actually have to know, what is your brand and what are you good at? All right. So if you are in particular a really analytical, strategic actor who can break apart a scene and do confrontational scenes really well and avoid emotional entanglements, and we're talking about Blacklist, and James Spader is a great actor because he's very analytical. He's analytical, and that's how he gains power over others. And the emotional world is a world that's uncomfortable for him. So the rational world and the strategist, every character he approaches like it's a chess match, right? That is what James Spader is selling. You can't figure out what's a great headshot until you figure out what it is that you're selling and what you're really good at as an artist, right? Because that's your brand. So if you're just asking me to look at a headshot, we're just looking at if you're pretty. But that's not what gets you jobs. What gets you jobs is people look at a picture and figure out this is their emotional brand. This is what they do well. And it's clear. It's clear that that's who they are, right? I know my emotional chords. I'm a teacher, I'm a bohemian, I'm a thinker, I'm rational, I'm a free spirit. There's all these, things that are my specific emotional chords, right? I help people free themselves and find their personal truths. There's a certain look that comes with that. I'm going to have the goofy glasses. I'm going to have the big hair. I'm going to have the bohemian clothes, or I'm going to be dressed in austere monotones, right? And talking about books. Like, I'm going to be the hot librarian. That is part of my emotional chords. So all of my headshots are going to communicate a different side of my chords. Right? So an effective headshot is a headshot that effectively shows people what you do as an artist, what kind of acrobat of the human condition you are, right? So when people ask me, they're saying, will you look at my headshots and pick a good headshot? And I'm like, I can't pick a good headshot until I know what you're selling. See how that works? A good headshot is a headshot that communicates what your soul song is, what your unique way of telling story is as an artist, and that has to do with your emotional makeup. Right? So I've answered your question in the way that I know is the most effective, right? when you answer somebody's questions with the way that you know is the most effective way to get a problem solved, you then become an expert of that particular strategy. And that's what makes people sign up for your mailing list. All right. So you have authority because you come with a real solution that you give people, and you can't give them too much. You do it on social media, the question and answer, so that you get social proof, right? People sign on when they see other people getting good answers, right? Social proof, it's word of mouth. And you always answer in the language that your customer is speaking in. That's why the first step before you try and sell anybody anything is to ask them what they want to learn. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to adapt what you teach. It means you need to be able to communicate a solution in the language that your client understands, right? And you state the question that they've asked you. That way, you and them get on the same page, right? And they know that you're listening to them. You just mimic the language of your client and then give them a clean, simple solution, right? Mimic the language of your client, restate their question in language that they understand, and then give them an answer in language they understand. Create authority by really and truly solving their problem. You can't give people too much information. And then do this question and answer thing on social media so that you have social proof. These are the three things that turn potential customers into buying customers, because you are creating trust in your brand, because you're giving them the keys to the kingdom, is what I call it. So that's all I'm going to give you for today. Last week I said create a post. Now I want you to go create a post to make sure you have all three of these things, that you are asking the question, responding in the language you understand, responding with a real solution, which builds authority, and then creating social proof. Do I have any questions? Great. Now I'm going to come back next week and we're going to talk about a call to action. Now, how do you begin to move these folks into a real 1, 2, 3? These are the steps, and let me show you how to buy this program that I have, right? How do you create a call to action? That's what we'll be talking about next week. If you have questions, you can ask me now, in the comments, or you can post them in the comments later, and I will come back and I will respond. You can sign up for the mailing list, aprilivettethompson.com, dreamingoutloud-tools.signup. The sign up link is right here in the description of the video, or you can go to the Dream Unlocked, which is the name of my coaching company. You can sign up on the main page, the Dreaming Out Loud technique. Start your own business. And you can, once you sign up, you'll get emails from me, and you can respond to the emails with questions, and we'll send you the first video when you sign up. All right. This is awesome. I'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place, 8-Bit channel. Thanks for joining me. Bye.